Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Tyler, one of the co-founders of LawClerk.legal. I'm so excited to join you today, and I hope you're enjoying the sessions and finding them really insightful. So I'm here today to share with you a little bit about LawClerk, which can be another tool that you add into your attorney toolbox, whether you're working from home or the office or wherever you may be working. So to start off with, what is LawClerk? Well, first off, you can find us at LawClerk.legal, and in pure Jimmy Fallon style, I enlisted my kids to help me with some great science here. So you're going to find us at LawClerk.legal, and what we do is we help connect attorneys who need assistance, whether that's once in a while or all the time, with our nationwide network of freelance lawyers. That's it in a nutshell. But beyond matching busy attorneys with our network of freelance lawyers, we also provide a lot of tools that make working remotely with freelance lawyers a lot easier, such as timekeeping, document sharing, and conflicts checks, all built in. So that's it in a nutshell. But how does it work? So again, to start out with, you would go to LawClerk.legal to register for an account. There's no fee to sign up and there's no monthly fee. So just to be a part of the network and have it available and ready for you when you need it costs nothing, which is really exciting. Once you have your account, when you need assistance, whether it's with blog posts for your website, research memos, motions, pleadings, settlement agreements, any sort of written document, you can tap into our nationwide network and hire a freelance lawyer to help you on a project-by-project basis. Now, when you connect with a freelance lawyer, you are going to pay them a flat fee price per project to get the work done that you need help with. So that's a really great thing, that you have total control over what you're spending with that flat fee price. But to boil it down, after you make your account at LawClerk.legal, you would log in and register to post a project. That's what we call the work on the site, is a project. And once you post that, we're going to notify our freelance lawyers that there's work available to them. They will apply to you. And when they apply, you get to see their credentials. You'll see their resume, a writing sample, and their reviews and ratings from the other attorneys they've worked with on other projects. And that's really valuable data for you to help find the best attorney for that project. Once you get to work, then you'll be able to communicate with them remotely, completely virtually, no matter where you are or where they are, to get more work done. So who are some of the freelancers? That's a really common question that we get. Our freelancers come from all different aspects, okay? We have former big law attorneys. We have law professors. We have solo attorneys that when their practice slows down, they do some freelance work. We have stay-at-home parents, military spouses, and even some retired and semi-retired attorneys who come onto our site and freelance from time to time. So it's a really highly qualified, experienced pool of freelance lawyers that you can work with and help boost your own practice. Speaking of boost your practice, you may be wondering, well, how would this apply to me and how could this possibly help me with my firm? Well, number one, if you had some ambitious growth goals at the start of 2020 and maybe you feel like those got thrown a bit of a hurdle in the past few months, I want you to know that you don't have to put those growth goals on hold. You can still build your team, help more clients by leveraging the time and talent of freelance lawyers. You can also, get the help that you need when you need it without having to hire someone full time, which may be a little bit scary right now with a lot of uncertainty that we're facing. So now I also know a lot of you may be attending the sessions today because you're either considering adding bankruptcy to your practice or maybe increasing the volume of the bankruptcy work that you're doing through your practice. And there's a couple of key ways we can help you there. Number one, if you're adding this as a new practice area, this is a great way for you to collaborate and tap into the talent of the freelance lawyers to make sure you have a second set of eyes on all of the work that goes out your practice and to leverage the knowledge of those other lawyers to make sure you're doing the best job for your own clients. This is also a way for you to delegate and offload work from your other practice areas. Maybe you also practice in family law and criminal law, but you kind of want to put those to the side, but you still need to get that work done. This is a way for you to delegate that work so that you can focus just on the bankruptcy work and helping those clients. So there's a lot of ways you can help us. If you check out our blog, you can get some great examples of how to use LawClerk. And when you register, you'll also be matched up with a dedicated LawClerk advisor who can help hold your hand and walk you through step by step. So last, before I go, I wanted to thank you for spending some time here with me today to learn about LawClerk. And so I wanted to give you a rebate code. So again, Jimmy Fallon style sign. The rebate code is going to be next chapter 100. Write that down, next chapter 100. What that's going to do when you complete your first project on LawClerk.legal of at least $300 or more, when that's done, we're going to send you out a $100 gift card to Amazon. And I don't know any lawyer out there who can't use an extra $100 to Amazon right now. So I wish you all the best. Be healthy. I hope you have a lot of success in your project, in your practice. And please think of us when you need some help. You can find us at LawClerk.legal.
a little crazy with the kid and the dog.
I can't get my video to work today.
That makes me look adventurous.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. I know. Oh no.
Welcome to bankruptcy.
That was the worst ever. That was so bad.
Doesn't get old for me. I hope everyone who's seen that more than once is still enjoying it. Hi, welcome to another session of Bankruptcy Week. Either welcome or welcome back. This would be our meeting with Stephanie Everett, which we're all really excited for. First, a couple of housekeeping notes. I know that for some of you, that you've seen these before, but we're just going to do a refresher or first time for our new viewers. So we are in Refine Your Law Firm Strategy with Stephanie Everett, and the housekeeping notes include that there is a chat on the right-hand side. You can use the chat to communicate any technical issues or speak to fellow attendees. We'll also have a Q&A at the end of Stephanie's session. And I believe we'll have some polls that are either being dropped throughout the session or it looks like they've actually already come through. So you'll see that in the polls tab there. Also, code of conduct, obviously, use inclusive language, no threats or intimidation, and no offensive comments. Pretty much goes without saying, but we said it. And back to Refine Your Law Firm Strategy. Oh, also, we probably have our one of our moderators who would have dropped our code of conduct link in the chat, but I should just be sticking to the cards. Oh, yeah. And we have some facts before we bring Stephanie on. So since the pandemic began, about 3 million people are not paying their mortgage. Obviously, we're experiencing a lot of unemployment, and about 1 in 4 small businesses have shut down. The last I saw, it was about 24%. 22 million people have filed for unemployment. And during the last recession, bankruptcy filings went up 74%. So one term that you may have already heard, I know that I've said it in the last couple of sessions, but we are expecting something like a tsunami of bankruptcies. So as the economy is drastically changing, we felt it would be a good time to put together this Bankruptcy Week conference. There, nailed it. As a bankruptcy software company, we do have first-hand data, and also we were lucky enough to land so many talented and experienced speakers such as Stephanie Everett. So this is Refine Your Law Firm Strategy, or how to create a law firm strategy that helps you run a more efficient, successful law firm. Now, to introduce Stephanie Everett. Stephanie co-founded her own law firm, and she runs the Lawyerist Community and Lawyerist Lab. She has written a book, presented at many legal conferences about law firm operations, and it says here, fun fact, an avid Texas Hold'em player, and her husband owned a craft beer distributorship. So what I have learned from Stephanie's bio is I want to hang out with her and her family. So I'm bringing her on stage now. Should be working. Hope it's working. The last note I wanted to add is she is the co-author of Lawyer's new book, The Small Firm Roadmap. And Stephanie, you're here. Can you hear me okay?
I'm here. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. We can also hear you pretty well. Yeah, I was really excited to see the avid Texas Hold'em player, craft beer, and then it said pretty much anything except for running. I'm like, okay, yeah, so we would be friends.
Yeah. And I joined Slack today, and I actually posted like, hey, if anyone wants to join me for a virtual poker game, let's do it. I mean, it's play money, so it could be fun.
I might take you up on that. I've seen Rounders a couple of times, so I think I know what I'm doing. But I am gonna get off the screen now and let you take it away.
Okay, and do you guys control the slides? Like, is that a thing? Sorry, I should know this. All right, well, while they're figuring that out, I'm hopeful somebody can help me and put up the slides.
I'm just hopping back in. Yeah, we can, let me see, we can either enter your media for you or you can run them. I think Jess will be able to answer that question for us.
Right.
We'll just do 1 second.
We'll get going. The first couple slides aren't that important. Maybe you guys can figure that out for me so I can pay attention here. So thanks, everyone. I'm super excited to be with you today. I'm coming in from Atlanta, where it's pretty nice. We've had a wonderful spring, which has been great since we can basically just go out in our yard. So I've been doing lots of gardening. So today I want to talk to us about strategy and having a strategy moving forward. And I'm coming at this today with the thought that a lot of you are maybe considering adding bankruptcy to your practice, or for the first time, or maybe you just haven't done it in a while. And now that the economy is where it is, it feels like maybe it's a good time to revamp. And those are all good things, but I want to make sure that we have a good plan in place moving forward. So I'm hopeful that we're going to give you some great tools today and a guide to get you started. So this is going to be a little bit of a working session because it's not fun for me to just stand up here and talk at you. That's not very fun. So the first poll that I have, I think they kind of showed up in backwards order. So look at the very bottom poll on that poll link. And the question is, I currently have a documented strategy for my law firm. Yes, no, working on it. So go ahead and let's make this fun and interactive, and let me know where you are with your strategy. Do you have a strategy? Is that something you're thinking about? Is it sort of in your head, or is it actually documented and something you can share with your team? And then I'm going to ask my friends at Next Chapter to also figure out, I have no idea how we see the results of this poll. We did a tech rehearsal, but everything wasn't quite ready yet. Anyway, we'll figure that out, and it will be fun to see. Here's what I can tell you is we actually have a small firm scorecard on our site, and we ask these questions to lawyers all the time. And the answers, well, I don't know, they may be surprising to you, maybe not. But when we asked firms, solo small firm lawyers, do you have clear and documented vision and values that are shared by all? And do you have long-term, ambitious, important, and clear goals that are shared by all on your team? And we asked people to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. And the results are not so great, you guys. In fact, most firms on a scale of 1 to 10, the average score was just a 4.9 out of 10 points. And in fact, almost 20% of the firms that answered gave themselves a 0 or a 1. And so what that's telling us is that 20% of the firms who are thinking about this have absolutely no strategy. They have no plan, and they have no way ultimately of hitting those goals, which is really unfortunate because there's a great quote that I have that, well, it would be on the slide. We're getting the slides, we're getting the download links. We understand that that's not happening quite yet, but that's all right. Oh, maybe they're coming.
Hi, probably a good time to hop in. Yeah, we have the slides. It looks like we're trying to upload those right now, but I think just with the live feed going, it's just taking a couple of minutes. But just a reminder about the polls, those are just live updating. So as you know, if you are going through them, you'll be able to see them as they're being replied to. And also we'll have that Q&A at the end if for whatever reason you want to look back and review anything. But yeah. It looks like your slides will be in just a couple of minutes, and we'll upload this for you.
That's cool. I use slides like they're a lot of pretty pictures because, you know, that's what I think's fun. So don't worry about it. You guys aren't missing too much, and we'll get all the slides for you. But yeah, so far it looks like we're looking at, you know, as many of half of you are responding that you don't currently have a strategy, you know, documented. And I noticed somebody said, well, I don't have a team. That's okay. That you should still have a written strategy, even if it's just you're the only person on your team right now, because you want to have a path, right? If we think about it, a strategy is just a fancy word for a goal. Like, where are we trying to go with our firm? And then how are we going to get there? And it's important because there's this great quote that we actually put in our book. Don Harold said, unhappiness is not knowing what we want and killing ourselves to get it. I'll let that sink in for a second. So, right? Unhappiness is not knowing what we want and killing ourselves to get it. How many times are you working, doing all these things, and we're not really clear if we're on the path to getting what it is we actually want out of life? I talk to business owners a lot, and I ask them, why did you start your firm? And is that still the case now? Like, you may have started it because you wanted flexibility, because you wanted more time for your family, or maybe you wanted more money, or whatever those things were, but you had a very clear set of your personal goals that you wanted before you started this business. And somewhere along the way, what often happens is we get a little lost. And before we know it, we wake up and the firm is sort of running us. And we realize, like, we're not exactly sure where we got lost along the way and what's happening. Here's some slides. All right. So I'm just going to advance through here, and you guys will get access to this. So no worries here. But this was the question that I asked. We asked in the small firm scorecard, and here you go, 4.9 out of 10 folks. So about half, and that's what we're seeing here in the poll today. It looks like about half of you are saying, yeah, I have a written strategy, and half aren't. And so let's walk through what it's going to take for you to come away today with some clearer ideas. And if not complete clarity, at least you'll know the steps that you need to take going forward so that you can have a path. Because ultimately, what we want is we want you to get to that thing. I always tell everybody, like, I want to make more, work less, help more clients, and be happy, right? Like, yeah, I want it all. And I want that for you. And I absolutely think that's possible. That's what gets me out of bed every day, is helping lawyers create healthier businesses. So yeah, here's just my funny slide of, this is what it feels like sometimes, right? When we're doing all these things and we're just trying to keep our head above water, but we don't have really a clear way to go. So let's change that. Let's walk through what it could look like for us to start putting a strategy in place. Because once we have those clearly defined goals, then we can start making sure we have action items. We can hold people accountable. We can hold ourselves accountable. And then we're going to finish out today talking about those KPIs, which is just a fancy word for data or information that we can use to make sure we're on the right path and we're headed the right direction. So the first thing that we need to figure out is, what's our goal? What are we trying to do with this? So in one of the polls, I asked about, what role is bankruptcy going to play in your practice right now? So are you currently offering bankruptcy, or is this something you want to strengthen this part of your practice? Maybe you're going to add it and it's going to be the full thing that you do, or you're just going to supplement it. Or maybe you have no desire to do bankruptcy at all, and you're just here because you heard Kristen and from Law Clerk and I are going to be here, and all the other fun speakers, and you wanted to hang out with the cool kids this week, which is absolutely fine too. So, what's driving you to be here today? What are you thinking? What part of is bankruptcy going to take for your practice? So what I thought we'd do is, since I'm assuming a lot of you are maybe adding this or strengthening this part of your practice, let's use that as our goal. And let's come up with a plan for what it could look like to move you forward with this goal. All right. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, you want to get really clear on what it is you're trying to do. So the goal should include things like, what are you trying to build with your business? What do you want your team to look like? How many people are you going to need? How do you want your team to be treated? How do you want them to feel every day when they come to work? Do you want a team? Maybe there's some of you that are saying, I don't want to have to manage a lot of people. Maybe I could build a law firm using just folks from Law Clerk and supplement my practice that way. And I'll be the only one that's, the full-time or, employee. That's certainly a part of the vision that you could create for yourself. What kind of clients do you want to serve? Who do you want to serve, and how do you want to serve them? What do you want your workday to look like? And then most importantly, or not most importantly, I shouldn't say that, but an important part that we sometimes forget, how much money do you need to make from this endeavor? And so I'm going to give you a link at the end, but we have some free tools on our website that walk you through a lot of these questions that kind of help you think about, what is the vision of your firm? What are you trying to create? And one of the things I would caution you here, because there's a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of stuff out there on vision and how you create a vision statement. And I think there's a lot of ways to do it, but here's what I want to leave you with. In my opinion, the vision statement for your business doesn't need to be a one sentence thing, right? Like we try to come up with these things that we put on our website. Like you could Google vision statements for corporations that you know and love, and you might see things like FedEx, we go places. I have no idea if that's what theirs is. Somebody would probably put it in the chat, but you get the idea. Like you'll read it and you'll say, and that's fine, but what does that really tell you about what they're trying to create? If you are someone who is looking at joining their team, would that sentence give you the information you need it to know if that's a company that you're aligned with? Is that a company that's heading in a place that you want to go and you want to contribute? Is that a team you would want to be a part of? So when you think about your vision for your business and creating these vision statements, give yourself permission to write more than a sentence, right? Tell a story. One of the exercises I have our Labsters do is I say, write a letter to a loved one and tell them, maybe it's like put yourself in the future and write a letter and explain to them what you've created. Describe for them what you've built. Hey, I have this team and everyone on the team are rock stars and they're paid really well and they have awesome benefits and everybody takes a sabbatical every 4 years for 1 month. I don't know. It's your vision. You get to create it. But the point is that you can use words and paragraphs to describe it, because I think it's really hard to really create a vision and try to boil it down to a sentence. And in marketing speak, Jim's going to be here tomorrow and talk to you about marketing plans. Being able to differentiate yourself from other firms, you may have to do that in a few sentences. But with this exercise, I want you to take the time it needs to really spell out your vision. And then you're going to boil that down. And how does bankruptcy fit into that vision? What part is it going to play into your practice? And so you can start having some fun with that. That's a great exercise to do. Just go out somewhere beautiful, someplace that inspires you, and be inspired. The other caveat I'll give you, or rule that a lot of folks fall to is they try to create the perfect vision because we're lawyers and we're perfectionists, and they get stuck. And so I have some folks, they take like 3 months trying to write this letter to the loved one, and they get a little stuck because they want it to be the perfect vision. You don't need to do that. You just need to relax, put some ideas out on paper, and let this kind of sit with you for a while. It may take you, a couple of months for you to really start to crystallize what this vision is going to be, but we want to get something going and we want to get on the path. All right. So now that we have an idea of what we're trying to head towards, let's start creating the plan. So here's the poll. I think you guys have already been doing this on how is bankruptcy gonna play into your firm? And then we wanna break it down even more. So in this question, I said, what percentage is it going to be? Is this gonna be, 50% of your firm, 100? Because we're gonna break that down. And so then in the example, now that we have a goal, we wanna figure out how we want to get there. We need to create a plan. This is going to be the most important work that we do. All right, so in this example, I came up with a goal for you guys. I have no idea if this goal resonates with you, but it sounded like a good one for us to use today as we work through this. And the goal is this, that this firm wants 30% of their firm revenue in 6 months' time. So 6 months from now, they want to be able to say that 30% of their revenue comes from a thriving bankruptcy practice, and that those bankruptcy cases generate a 30% profit margin. So in this case, we're looking not only at the total revenue that these cases are bringing in, but we're really looking at, are we driving a good profitability from that type of case? And so that is the goal that this firm's come up with. All right, sound good? Does that sound like something reasonable that you guys might want to try to achieve in the next 6 months? Maybe it's even faster than that based on those numbers we just saw. It's really a scary time right now. All right, so let's start breaking it down. So one thing you might have noticed is that my goal was pretty specific. It sort of followed the rules of a SMART goal, and that it was specific, it's measurable, it was time bound. We're going to be able to look in 6 months and we're going to be able to see if we either hit this goal or we didn't. And sometimes that can be very helpful as you're creating goals. You've probably heard the example, like, I want to lose weight. It's not a very smart goal because we never really know if we did it. It's better to say, or get healthy. That's even a more ambiguous thing. What does that mean? All right, so the first thing that I thought we would do is now we got to break down this goal and think about all the things that need to happen in order for us to get to this goal. And so in this exercise, I said, all right, we might need to create a marketing plan, because now we're going to need to attract and convert those bankruptcy clients who are going to come and hire us to do bankruptcy cases. So that's one step that we need to take in order to reach this goal. We're going to need to determine our offering and our price, right? Those just sound pretty basic, but that's something if I'm coming at this and I don't have bankruptcy as any part of my practice right now. We're going to need to create the tools, like all the things that you're learning this week about how to have good practices with bankruptcy, but what software are we going to use? How are we going to deliver the product so that we can do the bankruptcy cases efficiently and offer amazing client services? Remember that part of our goal is that 30% profit margin. So we're going to be looking at how we can drive costs down on the backside so that we can hit that efficiency. In my brainstorm for this goal, I thought about at some point we're going to need to train any team members, anybody else that we have that's helping us on all the processes and tools that we want them to use in order to hit this goal. And I know I'm going fast, but I also know you guys are going to get copies of these slides, so you'll have this for you. And then finally, we're going to want to create, I said, let's create an evaluation and an adjustment date, because too often we put things in place and then we sort of set them on auto drive. And especially if we have new things coming into place, we want to set a time, maybe 30, 60, 90 days out, where we check in and we say, how are those processes working? What do we need to adjust? And let's continue to have a very iterative process so that we're always refining and we're always doing better. So this is just a sample of how we're taking that big goal now and breaking down all the major steps that we need to take. And you guys have probably done this before, or maybe you have it with your goal setting, but it's just a way of thinking through what are all the aspects. So in this example, we're touching marketing, client delivery and services and tools, and our team and our staffing, finances as we're setting the price, and then finally that adjustment date. So you can think all parts of your business are going to be implicated by the fact that you're going to offer this new, potentially new offering. All right, so now we want to break each step down even further. So we started with the big goal. We came up with 5 big things that we know need to happen. And now we're just going to take it one more step down. So we want to break each item into action items with accountability and deadlines. So who's going to do each thing? And then we can start working the plan, right? So in my example, I said, let's just take the very first big step, which was create a strategic marketing plan that attracts and converts bankruptcy clients. So then we're going to work through, what does that need to look like? How do we create a strategic marketing plan? Because that's actually a pretty big task that we've just assigned to our firm. And so okay, the first step of a strategic marketing plan is, who's our ideal client? We want to do some research to figure out, and I know Jim is going to cover a lot of this in his marketing tomorrow, but we want to complete an ideal client profile. Maybe we want to do some research by a certain date, and we're going to supplement our profile. We're actually going to go out and talk to people and figure out who these people are. And maybe we'll do a competitive analysis to see what else is already out there in the marketplace so we can figure out how to distinguish ourselves. So these are just the first steps that anybody would take in putting together a strategic marketing plan. And so I just want to use these, not because I want to get into a big marketing discussion with you today, but just as an example of how we're going to take those bigger goals and start breaking them down to very finite action items with due dates and with accountability people. And we've got, I kind of kept going with the example, probably because I was having fun with it, because this is what I do every day. I work with attorneys and help them kind of do this strategy work. But then I also thought, for a lot of you, this could be really helpful, because I'm hopeful this example will help you think about this and get you going. So then the second big step in creating this marketing plan was designing an inbound marketing funnel. And so I just listed out all the steps. What would that look like if we needed to create this new funnel? And we would do all these action items. And so we're taking those big goals and we just keep breaking them down, right? And then finally, second slide, no reason for that one. And so that's it. Now you have a plan. Real quick, because I see a lot of folks make this mistake. It's very easy to come up with a huge list of things that you need to get done. We've probably all done this. You're probably walking away from bankruptcy week with a big list of action items, and you're really excited and hyped up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have all these things to do. And then the problem becomes Monday, the phone's ringing or Zoom meetings are happening and clients are calling, and we kind of get overwhelmed and we get a little lost. And that's where the real rubber meets the road, is now the implementation. How are we going to actually get all these things done? And the best advice I have for you here is, as you break these things down and you assign someone on your team, whether it's you or outside help, how you're going to delegate these action items. We're going to have some good accountability because we're going to have the person and we're going to have due dates. But before you even get there, you've got to almost check yourself a little bit, and you've got to really ask yourself, what are the next 1, 2, maybe 3 things that we as a firm need to get done to move our business forward? And then you want to start there, because the problem is sometimes when we have that list of 30 things and the phones start, none of it gets done. And then that's not good for anybody. And then you just kind of feel the judgment and all the bad stuff that we do to ourselves when we don't check things off your list. So instead, I want you to be really discerning and look at that list and figure out what's most important and start there first and tackle those things, get them off your list and move through those action items. And then once you've completed those, then you can start that. You can go through the process again. Okay, I did that first task. Now what's the next most important thing? Because then we don't suffer from the overwhelm. We can get in there, we can be precise. We know the things we need to focus on, the things we need to prioritize, and you jam them out. If you're finding that that's difficult, sometimes I know I work with a lot of folks and they struggle to come up with what the priority should be. This is where talking to other business owners, having a community, having help, having a coach, having those kind of people in your life can really help you, because sometimes it's that outside influence or even just talking about it with someone else that can help you see or just even ask you the questions so you can figure out for yourself what the next most highest priority is. So I hope that's helpful for you guys, because I do know what it's like to walk away really excited with a lot of things. And then 6 months later, you're thinking, what happened to that list of things? I didn't get any, what did I get done? And we just stay in this run mode. And so we don't want to be reactive. We don't want to be in run mode. The whole goal of this is to be really intentional and really strategic with how we're moving our business forward. All right, so then the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about today, so we started with our goal, then we broke it down into big action items. We took all of those and broke them down even further. And then we want to give ourselves some tools so that we can assess and evaluate where we are along the way. And so we ask in the small firm roadmap scorecard, and I asked today in the poll, how many of you are using key performance indicators, KPIs, to monitor the health of your firm and predict your future success? And we'll just have to see. I don't know how that polling data is going for you guys. Well, maybe if I vote, then it tells me. Oh, and then I see the results. That's why I'm not seeing the results, because I didn't actually go in and vote. That makes a ton of sense. Okay. So 10% of you so far who've answered the poll have said that you're using KPIs, and about 63% said no, and 28% said working on it. And that's actually not too surprising to me. When we ask this question in our scorecard, it's actually one of the questions that lawyers score themselves the lowest on. Of all 50 questions, if you're interested in that assessment, by the way, it's available for free on our site, and we'll put a link up to that later. But yeah, the average score on this question is 2.97 out of 10 points. And in fact, 56% of lawyers are giving themselves a 0, 1, or 2 on this question of using KPIs. And that's pretty consistent with what we're seeing today. So let's break it down a little bit, because doesn't have to be hard, and I think people get stuck on, well, which KPI should I be measuring and how do I do it? And so let me give you some quick tools that you can use, because it's really quite easy. So when we talk about KPIs, all we really are saying is data. We want to use information. We want to use real numbers and data to make decisions in our business. Because right now, if we're not, then we're probably just going off our gut, right? Like we're just using our instinct and we're not really sure. And our gut's pretty good, but in times like today, when we're facing, potential recessions and we're in pandemic mode, we can't leave it to our gut. We want to be really strategic with our business and make sure we're making the right decisions. And so, I didn't put this on the slide, but if you're thinking, one of the things you should think about is if you're adding bankruptcy to your firm is, you want to do a good analysis of what that's going to look like. How much is it going to cost you, both in terms of hard costs, things that you might need to buy, but training that you need to take, hours you need to take to get competent in this area, and put a value to that. And then you want to look at, how much am I going to be able to make as a business from doing my bankruptcy work? What am I going to charge? How many clients do I forecast I could potentially get? How much time do you expect it's going to take you to recover the initial cost of adding the practice? Well, with that information, now you can start making decisions. You might adjust your prices, or you might look for ways to cut your expenses. You can make data-driven decisions about your business because you have the information. But without it, you're just sitting here going, yeah, bankruptcy, that's probably going to be pretty popular. Let me try that. And that's what we're trying to get you. Start with that. That's a good instinct, but then let's back it up with data so that we can strategically move our business forward. Sound good? All right. So we're just going to use these KPIs. Like I've already said, it's just information. We can use it to monitor, to test, and adjust what we're doing with our business. By the way, there's different flavors of KPIs. So a lot of times we'll talk about financial numbers. It could be in the client development numbers. I'll use that as an example here in a second. It could be in client success. You might decide that you want to get your cases from filing to final order, you want that to be 6 months or less. And so you could measure the speed it takes for you to complete cases, or you could measure NPS scores of how happy your clients are with your services and whether they would recommend you to other people. So there's all kinds of data categories that we can use to drive our business. One of the mistakes people make when they get into KPI world, when they first realize they need to do this, they almost go on like KPI overload and they start looking for so much data and information. They'll spend a month collecting all this data that's supposed to be a monthly number, so we don't want to get stuck in the data either. The key is to look at your goals and then pick one or two or maybe three numbers that are really going to help you see if you're moving towards those goals. And if you're just starting out with using KPIs, just start with a few numbers. Don't overwhelm yourself. You can always adjust. You can always add on more later. Our team, we use data. We use our KPI scoreboard every week to measure different aspects of our business. And every quarter, as we set new quarterly priorities, part of what we do is we look at that dashboard and we say, which of these numbers need to change based on the new priorities we've set for our business. And so it's not something that once you just do it once, you set it and forget it. You're constantly going to be evaluating these numbers to tell you, are they telling you the right data? So let's just walk through a quick example. So in this case, remember we said that we wanted 30% of our firm revenue from bankruptcy. Our action item was then to create that strategic marketing plan. So what kind of KPIs could we use to see if we're hitting that, if we're actually getting 30% of our revenue coming in from new bankruptcy clients? So the first one that I thought of, which is where kind of everyone goes, is, well, we could track how many engagements get signed, right? We could see how many new cases are coming in that are bankruptcy cases. And that's a good one. The only problem with this KPI, it's definitely something we're going to track because we need to know it. It just doesn't tell us if we're headed on the right path, right? It's a lagging indicator. It's not a leading one. So it doesn't tell us good information on the front end so that we could adjust if we needed to, if we were somehow not on track. So we might back it up and we might say, well, then let's look at how many consults we conduct each week. How many new people are calling us and coming in and meeting with us to see if they want to hire us. And then we could start looking at conversion rates, right? So how many people come in to meet with you versus how many people signed with you. And that would be good information to have. That would tell you if you have a problem with the conversion tool. But then we might even back it up even more. And we might say, well, how many leads are even booking a consultation? Because maybe we determine not enough people, they book, but then they don't show up. And then that tells us that we have a different problem. And then finally, we could back it up even more and say, okay, maybe in part of our content marketing strategy, we offered a downloadable guide, and we could look at how many people are downloading that guide each week. And then from those downloads, how many books, consultations are booked, and then consults conducted. So this is just an example, but I hope you start to see that our KPIs, the numbers that we're going to start measuring to determine if we're succeeding, is directly tied to the goal. So we just want them to have a relationship to one another. And ideally, you want those KPIs to hopefully tell you if there's problems early in the process so that you can make adjustments. If we all of a sudden we see, wow, this conversion tool that we put out there, this downloadable guide on 5 things to think about before you file for bankruptcy, we're using that as a marketing tool to attract people to connect with us. You may figure out that we need 10 people to download that each week, because then that results in 3 people booking a consultation, which results in 2 people signing with us, and that's ultimately the goal. So you start monitoring these numbers and you figure out your ratios. Then you can see problems before they even start, because you can see earlier in the process, oh, only 2 people downloaded our guide for the last 3 weeks. That's going to impact us. We're not going to hit our engagement goal. So that's how KPIs work. Again, it's just a fancy word for data, and you can start to see like why people geek out on this, because once they start learning data for one part of their practice, they're like, oh, and this could apply for this and this and this, and they have a lot of fun with it. But again, it's just like that list of action items. Don't get yourself overwhelmed, because the key to everything that we do, I say this a lot, is to get results, you need action. So it's great that you're here today learning. Super love that. And you want to learn all these things, but we've got to then start implementing them if we want to see results. So I don't want you to get bogged down in the ideas. I want you to pick, 1 or 2 things that you can do moving out of this week to start implementing right away. And then we'll pick what data we need to measure to see if we're successful. And then we can make adjustments as we go. So it's really quite that easy. All right, I'm about to the Q&A part. Of course, you're not alone. I think I've already told you how valuable it can be to connect with other people and ask those questions and get that outside perspective as you're helping prioritize. I wanted to make sure I shared with everybody, we have free tools on our site for you, including, I was just looking at the list, so many of the things I just talked about. So we have a business visualizer tool that helps you create your vision, ask those questions. We have something that will help you think about your ideal client and their buyer's journey. We have a sample sales tracker for you. We have a client acquisition cost calculator, KPIs that you should be monitoring. There's just a ton of stuff on there that's free. So you can follow that link and get there. All right, we got a bunch of questions coming in. So let me take a breath and transition to those if you guys will let me here.
Hey, hello again. I am here. We actually compiled a couple of questions throughout the presentation. Also, I didn't get a chance to say thank you so much for joining us. If you can imagine a round of applause, I'm sure if we were in person, we'd be doing that. But no, we really, really appreciate your time, and it was a great presentation. The first question that I'm seeing here was, how do you hire a freelance lawyer without violating the provisions of 11 USC 504 that prohibits fee splitting?
Yeah, I think that came about from Kristen from Law Clerk talking to us about their services. Is she with us, or is she able to answer that? I saw her say hi in the chat. So I know she could answer this off the top of her head.
Let me see if I can find her. I'll invite her on stage.
Yeah. Hey, Iffy, I see you saying hello. Hey, everybody. Oh, thanks, Dina. Just trying to catch up. I obviously have not been following the chat at all because that's impossible. So, yeah.
Maybe not available now, but if we can, if we can follow up with her, we can also maybe get a response to that question whenever we send out our follow-up email to everybody.
I'll give a shout out to Law Clerk too. Like you guys, I know if you're new to thinking about Law Clerk and their services, they have thought through all of these ethical issues and questions that you're hitting us up with. And so they actually have great resources on their website that you can go to, and I know they'll help you get really comfortable with using their services. So that would be the best place to go, is to check out their site, because I've talked to them about this before at conferences, and I know they have these answers for you. I just don't want to tell you the wrong thing when we start getting into ethical world.
That makes sense to me. I'm going to move on to this next one that we have here. We had a question: what if you are an associate attorney within a fairly large statewide firm? Are there ways to implement these concepts within that context?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can create some goals for yourself. So, you know, if you're an associate and you're trying to figure out what your path to partnership looks like, either within your firm or because maybe one day you want to leave, think of your own little universe, and what do you want your practice to look like? And you could go through this exercise for yourself of what would you need to, what is your goal with your practice, and what would you need to put in place to reach those goals? And you could even monitor, you could even create your own KPIs for just your practice. So that's one way you could approach it. Another way is to talk to your leaders. If you're an associate at a firm, if you have a practice group leader, a lot of times maybe they're just not clued into thinking about this way. And so you could approach them and say, hey, I got some really great training, and I see some opportunities for our firm to be more intentional with how we think about our practice and what we're going to do moving into this new, this new stage, and see if they'll engage in that with you. When I was an associate, they always told us to walk like a partner, like the whole walk like a duck, talk like a duck thing. I would imagine if you were to go to your partners and have a conversation like this, they might be pretty impressed with that kind of thinking. I know when I was a partner at a firm, I would have appreciated it. I always liked it when I saw associates taking that ownership and thinking like a business owner. So I would absolutely have those conversations. By the way, their answer may tell you if you guys are aligned. I see more partners and more firms break up because ultimately they realize that the vision one partner has is very different than the vision another partner has, or their values simply aren't aligned. And so that's one way to get some clarity around whether this is the place for you to practice long-term.
Okay. Oh, I wanted to leave your slide up here just so that everyone could take that in. But do you think we can take that down now, or do you want to leave this up?
Oh yeah, that's probably good. And I know they're getting it, so yeah.
There you go. They will be sending it out, and also now you get to see more of me. I did dress up for this. You can guess how often I wear a jacket these days while we're working from home. Let me see. I know we have at least two more here. The one question is, what are resources that are available to determine what would make a realistic goal, particularly market data on profitability of certain practice areas? So I know that you had just listed some resources there, but is there anything specific or anything you might recommend to help someone starting out determine realistic goals?
I mean, one thing I'll remind you guys, I say this all the time, I think lawyers, we do a disservice to ourselves because we literally have these in between our names. I mean, we start in law school and we're taught that it's a very competitive environment. Other business owners don't approach their businesses that way. I know that as a result of this conference, we started a Slack channel, or you guys started a Slack channel yesterday. I was in there today hanging out, and these would be great questions to ask other practitioners. hey, I'm just getting started. Stephanie mentioned 30% profitability for my, cases. Is that a good number for a Chapter 7 case? And then let some of the more experienced people say like, no, she's crazy. Or actually, yeah, she's crazy, but it's 40% or something. It's even better than what she said. That's valuable information that people should be willing to share, I think. And that's what I love about the communities that we create, is getting with other business owners and having real conversations about how your business is doing and where you're struggling and where you can make those adjustments. Because that's going to be the best data you can get. I mean, I could sit here and tell you, you could probably Google and look for some published numbers, but you have a great community right here with you this week. So tap into that and take advantage and help each other out, because I don't know, it's a great thing to do, and you'll learn from each other. You'll learn better than what you'll get from some website with some out of date data. Yeah,
no, that makes perfect sense. Let me see, I want to make sure I hit this last one here also. We had a question. Someone said, I'm looking to bring another attorney on so I can relocate and open another office in a different state. Any resources out there to do something like this?
To bring another attorney on?
I think specifically to bring in another attorney in addition to opening another office in a different state.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. So we have some resources on our site, because you're kind of touching on a lot of things, right? One is scaling your business. And so if you want to open another practice, I can't emphasize, or another office in another location, systems and processes become really important. Michael Gerber talks about this in his book, E-Myth. I like the original version better, not the one for lawyers. The example still holds, right? The reason McDonald's is run very effectively and efficiently by basically high schoolers is because they have a system and process for everything. Hey, if you're going to go do this, here are the 15 steps you need to take. And I'm a big fan of that. It allows us as law firms to start delivering a consistent client experience, because what you want is that a client that calls one office gets the same experience as the client that calls the other office. And by the way, that works if you only have one office. Like, my experience shouldn't differ on Monday because your person was in a bad mood or forgot something or whatever it looks like. So systems and processes become really important when we think about client delivery and client services. And we talk about that a lot in the resources that we have for you at lawyerist.com. The other thing, that you kind of touched on with that question is the idea of hiring and staffing. And there's a ton that goes into that. And that could be like a whole separate webinar. In fact, I did that one at Tech Show this past year about hiring based on your values. And so the high notes there are: be really clear on your corporate values, what's important to you, and really think about what that person needs to look like. Not just they need to be able to draft discovery requests, but really think about what skills do they need to bring? What kind of work ethic do they need to have? What kind of people do you work well with? And what are people that you found in the past that you don't work well with? Think about that, and then design a hiring process that's going to allow you to discern if those people that you're interviewing have those skills and can bring that to the team. Because unfortunately, sometimes as lawyers, there was no HR class in law school. And so we just don't get taught interview skills, and we tend to just have a conversation with people, and we're trying to conduct our interviews to find out, do I like this person? Are they a cool cat? Is there someone I want to hang out with and have a drink with after work? And that may be important, but that may not give you all the information you need to know to figure out if this person's going to be an effective person on your team. And so we have to dig in and create great interview questions and a great hiring process, and then you'll get to better hiring results. So I know that was a lot, but that question had a lot packed into it. So I hope that at least
the question
gives the person a place to start.
One or two sentences, and I was like, oh, geez, what have you done? No, well, and even in your answer, it reminded me, a little bit of what you're going over as far as when you're referencing KPIs. It reminds me of something my dad would say. I keep bringing him up. He's also an attorney, but he would always mention just building a foundation, and then once you have a strong foundation, you can build upon it. So I feel like that is applicable in more than one area. So that's really great. I think that's it as far as questions go. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention, anything to close out? Otherwise, I can mention our our next seminar for tomorrow?
Yeah, while you're looking at that, I'll just remind everyone, I did join the Slack channel today, so feel free to hit me up there if you have other questions or want to connect with me directly, or go to lawyerist.com or Stephanie@lawyerist. Don't be shy. Like, I actually love to interact with you guys. This is what I do all day, every day. So feel free to reach out if you do have questions or want to figure out how you can work with us in our programs. And I'd love to connect with you.
We really, really appreciate you being here. I know it's got to be kind of weird to, be presenting online. I know personally I prefer a live stage. So, for all 3 of the plays I was ever in, but it's not about me. I would like to mention our seminars for tomorrow. It looks like the next one will be at 10 o'clock Eastern time, 10 a.m. that is, with Jordan Turk, and that is Don't Leave Money on the Table, Getting Paid and Better Serving Your Clients in 2020. So we'll be looking forward to that. And I don't think I'm leaving anything out. Can you think of anything, Stephanie?
You know what? I have one more request from our marketing director. So just like you guys asked for referrals, if you have a testimonial for how I did today and you wouldn't mind sending it to me, I would love that, because we're trying to build up and we're always trying to collect things. So if this was helpful, or if you have pointers or things you think I should do different, because it is hard when you're not live, because I can't see you guys, and that's the hardest part about this. But if you have any feedback from me and how I did, I would love, love, love to hear that as well. Thank you.
I think you did it. That's a perfect bookend. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you everyone for joining us. And I'm gonna close out this webinar. Have a good day.